Welcome, everyone, to HRDQ Resource Reviews.
Great to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really interesting tool. It's designed to help us all connect and work together better. It's called What's My Communication Style?
Yeah, and that's so crucial, isn't it? When you really think about what makes teams, work, good communication is just fundamental.
Absolutely. It underpins pretty much everything.
Right, collaborating on projects, meeting goals, even just providing value back to the organization. It all comes back to how well people communicate.
But let's face it, it's not always smooth sailing in the workplace. I think we've all been there.
Oh, definitely.
Communication breakdowns happen. Sometimes it leads to, conflict or just general frustration. And often it's less about the actual words being said.
And more about how they're said or how they're interpreted, right?
Exactly. The delivery and the reception.
And that's really where something like what's my communication style comes in. It kind of offers a way to navigate those, let's say, trickier interactions.
How so?
Well, the whole idea is to build a better understanding of different communication approaches, yours, mine, everyone's, to hopefully minimize those clashes and, build stronger working relationships.
Okay, and this tool comes from HRDQ, for listeners who might not know them.
All right, HRDQ, they're a well-known publisher in the learning and development space. Very respected.
And their tools are generally research-based, I understand.
Yes, that's a key point. Resources like, what's my communication style? They're not just pulled out of thin air. They're built on pretty solid research and validation processes.
So grounded in actual principles of how people interact.
Precisely. At the heart of this particular tool is something called the HRDQ Style Model.
The style model. Okay.
And what's really interesting is its roots. It draws on work from some big names, like Carl Jung, his work on psychological types.
Right, Myers-Briggs connection there, perhaps?
Sort of related concepts, yeah. And also William Moulton Marston, who did a lot of work on behavioral styles. Think DISC.
Ah, okay. So it integrates these established ideas.
Yeah, exactly. It pulls them together to help us understand how our sort of default communication preferences really shape how we interact with others.
Okay, that makes sense from a theory perspective.
Yeah.
But how does it work in practice? If I or my team were to use what's my communication style, what actually happens?
Good question. So it typically kicks off with a self-assessment. It's validated, which is important.
Right.
And this assessment helps you figure out your own preferred communication style. You respond to various statements, and based on your answers, it points you towards one of four main styles.
Four styles, what are they?
They are direct, think, assertive, results-focused. Then there's spirited, more enthusiastic, outgoing, high energy. Then consider that style really prioritizes relationships, harmony, thinking about others' feelings. And finally, systematic, which values logic, data, accuracy, a very structured approach.
Direct, spirited, considerate, systematic.
Okay. So step one is figuring out where you naturally lean. Yes, gaining that self-awareness, understanding your own tendencies, your own communication comfort zone, if you will.
Makes sense.
But it definitely doesn't stop there. Once you've got a handle on your own style, the tool then teaches you how to spot these same four styles in the people you work with.
Ah, okay. Recognizing it in others.
Right. And this is where I think it gets really practical and valuable. It doesn't just stop at recognition. It actually guides you on how to adapt your own communication.
Adapt, you mean like change your style?
Not fundamentally change who you are, no. It's more about flexing your style, making conscious adjustments in how you communicate to better connect with someone who has a different preference than yours.
Okay, I see. So if I'm naturally very direct, I might need to adjust my approach when talking to someone who's more considerate.
Exactly. What works for a direct person getting straight to the point might feel, I don't know, abrupt or even insensitive to a considerate type.
And vice versa, I suppose. A very systematic person might need more detail than the spirited person typically offers up front.
Precisely. It's about developing that awareness, understanding those different needs, and then having some actual strategy, some tools in your belt to bridge those potential gaps.
That sounds incredibly useful. It's not about labeling, but about adapting for better connection.
That's the goal, fostering better understanding and ultimately smoother collaboration.
So let's talk outcomes. If an organization or even an individual uses what's my communication style, what are the key takeaways, the main benefits they can expect?
Well, first and foremost, like we said, is that clearer picture of your own communication habits. Why you say things the way you do, why you react certain ways. That self-insight is huge.
Yeah, that awareness alone can be a bit of a game changer, can't it?
It really can. Then, building on that, you start to understand the strengths and maybe the potential blind spots or weaknesses associated with each of the four styles.
Okay, so appreciating the differences.
Exactly. It fosters a bit more empathy, I think. You move away from thinking someone's style is wrong just because it's different from yours, and you start seeing its unique value. Direct gets things done, spirited brings energy, considerate builds morale, systematic ensures accuracy. They all contribute something.
So it's about appreciating that diversity in how people communicate rather than just boxing them in.
Perfectly put. And then the really practical piece is learning how to interact effectively across those different styles. The tool gives you concrete tips, strategies for tailoring your approach.
Which presumably leads to fewer misunderstandings,
Yeah,
less conflict.
that's certainly the aim, a more positive, more productive work environment overall.
And does it encourage people to actually use this knowledge?
Yes, absolutely. A key part is helping participants create actual actionable plans. How are you going to apply this tomorrow in your next meeting with that specific colleague? It's focused on driving real behavioral change, not just, theoretical understanding.
That's crucial, making it stick. Okay, so for listeners thinking, this sounds like something we could use, what are the options? How do they get access to what's my communication style?
HRDQ offers quite a few ways in, depending on the need. For, say, an HR department or a training manager wanting to roll it out, there are online assessment credits for administrators.
Okay, what does that involve?
That lets you manage the assessments centrally, send them out to participants, and importantly, it often includes personalized reporting features. You can see team profiles, things like that. Very useful for understanding group dynamics.
Right, getting that bigger picture view. What if I'm just an individual wanting to learn about my own style, or maybe a trainer wanting to check it out first?
Good point. There's a self-enrollment online learning option for that, perfect for individual learners or just for evaluating the product before maybe a bigger rollout. You basically sign yourself up and go through it.
Okay. And what about facilitators who prefer doing things in person, maybe with paper materials?
They've got that covered too. There are on-site print assessment 5-packs, so you can hand out physical assessments if that's your preferred method.
Like in a traditional workshop setting.
Exactly. And to go along with that, they also offer on-site print workbook 5-packs. These are great as follow-up tools during or after an instructor-led session. Helps participants really engage with and process the information.
And for the person leading that session, the facilitator, what support is there?
There's a really comprehensive on-site print facilitator guide. This thing is packed. It's got all the background info on the styles, activity ideas, detailed instructions for running the assessment, debriefing it, facilitating discussions, the works.
Sounds thorough.
It is. And it usually comes with samples of the accessories, too, like a wall poster, a quick reference HRDQ card, even stickers to make it more engaging, plus digital support materials like PowerPoints.
Stickers. That sounds fun, actually. Makes it a bit more memorable.
Definitely adds a bit of engagement. And those HRDQ cards you mentioned, they're available separately, too. They're handy little quick reference guides summarizing how to flex your style for each of the other types. Great for reinforcement after the training.
Okay. Any other supporting materials?
Yeah, for those who want to go even deeper into the underlying concepts, there's a companion book called Personality Style at Work. And as mentioned, the Style Model wall poster is available on its own great visual aid for an office or training room.
So lots of supporting tools. What if I'm a facilitator, but I'm new to this specific tool, feeling a bit unsure about running it for the first time?
They have an option for that too. It's called the Quick Start Train the Trainer. It's a virtual coaching session, one-on-one with an HRDQ expert. They basically walk you through it, answer your questions, and help you get comfortable and confident before you facilitate it yourself.
That's a really valuable support option, especially for first-timers.
Definitely. Take some of the pressure off.
And I heard there might be some new workshop offerings as well.
That's right. Relatively new, I believe. They now offer 2-hour workshop options. These can be done either on-site at your location or virtually, and they're led by HRDQ's own experienced consultants.
So if an organization prefers to just bring in the experts to deliver the training directly, that's an option now.
Exactly. It provides another layer of flexibility.
Wow, okay. So it sounds like there's a really flexible and comprehensive suite of options there. Whether you're an individual, a small team, or a large organization, whether you prefer online or in-person, self-directed, or facilitated.
Pretty much. They seem to have tried to cover most bases, providing a well-researched, well-supported path towards, improving that vital workplace communication.
Well, this has been incredibly informative. It really highlights just how foundational communication is, doesn't it? And how understanding these different styles, direct, spirited, considerate, systematic, can genuinely be, well, a game changer for teams.
It really can make a tangible difference in collaboration, conflict reduction, and just overall effectiveness.
So, for anyone listening who's thinking about enhancing communication within their own organization, we definitely recommend taking a closer look at what's my communication style.
And the place to go for all the details on the assessments, the facilitator kits, those workbooks, the new workshops, everything we've talked about is hrdqstore.com.
That's HRDQstore.com.
Right, hrdqstore.com.
Definitely worth exploring. And maybe just as a final thought to leave our listeners with, consider your own team for a moment. Think about your next big project or even just your daily interactions. What might happen if everyone had a shared language, a shared understanding of these different communication preferences?
Interesting question.
What might you discover about your colleagues? And maybe just as importantly, about yourself? Could that shared understanding lead to, smoother collaboration, less friction, maybe even greater success? Something to ponder.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks so much for walking us through this today.
My pleasure.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in to this deep dive.